Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Pig's Ear in Review, one of the only shows where we actually discuss the games we've been playing and some of the movies and TV shows that we've been watching as of late, and maybe one day comics, but that'll be for another day. So my name is Myshtuff, and joining me as always is the lovely Riku Rose here on the Tojo Dojo. So this week we're going to have a few things we're discussing. So, of course, the big one close to our hearts here is the Shenmue anime that just wrapped up a little less than 9 hours ago, so hot off the presses here because we're recording this just the morning after that premiered, or the finale premiered, I should say. And then we're going to be talking about a couple games, so Hellblade and Stanley Parable, what is it, the Ultra Deluxe, I think it's called now,
Yeah.
that edition. But yeah, so other than that, though, how's it going, though? Have you been the last week?
Yeah, not bad. Mainly been trying to catch up on sleep, having a puppy. People are like, oh yeah, it's just like having a baby. I'm like, I don't want a baby, I want a puppy. So I got a puppy.
It's the baby step to a baby.
Yeah, like we killed the house plant and we what next?
Hopefully the dog will stay alive, and that's
Yeah,
good.
he's fine. He's fine.
Nice. That's good. I'm glad to hear. Yeah, and for me, other than the stuff we're about to talk about, I have stepped forth into playing Elden Ring, which I'll cover on an eventual episode in probably 10 years when I finish it, because the game is so effing long. So that's been a fun. I thought I'd wait longer to play after the last Dark Souls games, but I couldn't
Mate,
help
you're
myself.
a Dark Souls / heroin addict, aren't you?
Yeah, just give me more, please. I need more. Can I have some more, sir? So, anyways, with that, yeah, let's get right into the Shenmue anime. So, for those who maybe aren't aware, the anime, so it was a 13 episode run that was like a combination between, I guess, Adult Swim and Crunchyroll. And so at first, and granted, maybe I'm just misremembering, but I remember when they first announced, it wasn't super clear, like how much of the story they were going to do. And I was actually surprised when, like, halfway through the series, they were already getting straight into Shenmue 2. So, but basically, the series is just Shenmue 1 and 2. So, I don't know. Did you have a different impression when they first talked about that?
I thought I remember it being a bit vague, where we were like, oh, like, is it the first game, second game? But, like, we didn't know how closely it was going to follow or anything like that. And I didn't know until it was airing, like, how close it was going to follow it.
Yeah, exactly. And if I remember, was it announced after 3 came out? I mean, for sure it was in production prior, right?
Yeah. Because I'm convinced that they had signed the contracts and everything before 3 came out. And then it was like kind of like, okay, we've still got to do this sort of thing.
Right. So, I mean, we've on this channel, of course, have we talked about Shenmue 3 quite a bit. For anyone interested, go back and watch that video from not long after it came out. We did like a 4-hour like stream, basically. I'm pretty sure we uploaded the full one onto the Tojo Dojo YouTube channel, and we were going through not just that game, but kind of the history and kind of just the Shenmue community and stuff like that. But either way, it was an interesting experience to play that game. But when this anime came out, I was curious, at a minimum, were they at least going to do Shenmue 3 story? And it sounds like no, they haven't. But to be fair, that story was like 5 minutes in total from that whole game. So I don't know, maybe that'll be one more episode, maybe a bonus one.
Yeah. They do, like, the last episode was like really quick. It like the entire last disc of the game.
Yeah, so I guess so let's just get into that then. So as far as the story goes, I guess I'll have to be as objective as I can, where, like, if you're just watching this just to get the gist of the story, then I think it was fine. It wasn't.
I think you could watch this and go straight into playing Shenmue 3.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't miss anything majorly important.
Yeah, and I will say, like, yes, they changed a few. I wouldn't even say change. It's more like they streamlined a few things or made it maybe just quicker to get to the point. Because obviously, if they did the full scope of both those games, it would be like probably 3 times the length because of all the like side stories and random stuff. But at least like the core story, you got it, and the stuff they maybe minorly changed was probably more for like dramatic effect and stuff like that. Like, for example, the last episode last night. Like in the game.
Are we spoiling?
Do you? I mean, I don't know. What do you
I, I,
think?
I don't think we should spoil because
Okay,
it is,
fine.
as we said, it's like no. But yeah, they changed something, and it's quite clearly to add some drama
That's
to
fair.
the scene. Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay, fine. Yes, that part. And once again, yeah, it's not to the point where it like dramatically changes it, but it is a slight alteration. Okay, fine. To maybe go to something else earlier in the series, then with Master Chen and Guizan, which I think I
Hmm.
even mentioned to you, like they made their relationship in the anime seem like a lot more like butting heads. When I was like, I
Hmm.
don't think I got that in the game unless I completely missed something.
I think that's the main thing they changed is like some people's personalities because
Yeah.
like Mark is like a geek in the game. So he's
Hmm.
like, "Hey, my lunch," but in this, he's just like the quiet, stoic guy at work who doesn't
Right. Right.
talk. I don't know if you ever saw I now pronounce you Chuck and Larry.
I don't believe so.
No, there's like one firefighter who's just, they all think is a murderer because he just doesn't say anything. Um, like he had that personality more. And then who's the guy who works at Manmo Temple? Uh,
Um,
Fang Mei? Fang
Or
Mei?
Fang Mei. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Where she in the game has more of a crush on Rio, but in this she
Hmm.
actually seems to like hate him.
Right, a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, in the games it is always ridiculous that any woman who comes into contact with Rio
Right.
just fancies him.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Right. So, but once again, either way, the main story it's there. It's fine. It's nothing drastically different. But to your point, though, I guess briefly without spoiling it, the last episode does kind of quickly rush straight to the conclusion. But once again, it's not you're not missing anything, so it's not a huge deal. So, as far as the show itself as an anime, like yeah, I mean, like I said, it was fine. Voice acting was good enough. Animation wasn't like the greatest I've ever seen, but I mean, once again, it served its purpose, I suppose. But I guess I'm trying to think though. Like I think back to all the other animes I've watched over the years because I know you said you don't really watch too much anime,
No.
but like for me, I mean, I say that I'm like literally wearing an anime T-shirt, right? I didn't plan that to be honest, but like I'm looking at this and like this is Yu Yu Hakusho, by the way, great anime. But I look at an anime like this, and this is a show that I could watch like over and over. Like it's just a great show. Animation's very nostalgic. It's just a cool show for a lot of reasons. But then I watch this show, and especially as fans of the game, I go, okay, I've watched it once do I ever think I'm going to watch this again? Like, and I'm curious, actually, maybe for
Mhm.
you, since you don't watch anime that often, like, what did you think of it as an anime? Do you think you'd watch it again, or would you recommend it to people?
I mean, I never really watch anything again a second
Hmm.
time because
Hmm.
I always get like sort of secondhand guilt that I'm not experiencing something new. Um, I don't think I'll ever watch it. Yeah. I enjoyed it. It was fun. Would I have loved it if I'd never played the games before and didn't have such a fondness for the games?
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to sort of look from the outside and like I don't. This is what's hard. I don't know if you'd recommend this to people who have never played the games,
Hmm.
but for those that have played it, other than the fact that it's sort of a cool little extra,
Hmm.
it's nothing like groundbreaking.
Hmm.
So I think it's a good show. It's really good. Like, but I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
think it's anything that's going to be one of those like. I'm not into anime, as I said, but everyone's like, "Oh, you need to watch these shows. You need to watch
Hmm.
like Ghost in the Shell. You need to watch uh, Cowboy Bebop." People always say stuff like that, but I don't think this is. If this is what anime is at its peak, then I'm like, "Oh, okay. I don't think this is for me."
Yeah, and well, granted, it depends on what you like, just like any
Yeah, yeah.
TV show or movie or whatever. But I wouldn't say this is like the pinnacle of anime by
No,
any stretch of the imagination. But yeah, no, I think you summed it up well. Like, yeah, it's a solid show. I wouldn't say it's bad by any means.
no.
It was just kind of your run of the mill sort of story, nothing too crazy, right?
It
So,
also wasn't too anime because, like, in the first episode, there was a
mhm.
few things like where Rio like punches a guy and they freeze frame and have like a full conversation, and then I'm like, oh, okay, please don't do this all the time because that's not what I like in anime. But then they
Mhm.
didn't do that for the rest of the show. The rest of the show was quite, it's kind of like a drama. Like
Yeah, it
thriller.
was pretty yeah, it was fairly realistic, and I guess
Yeah.
granted that also sort of lends itself to what the game why people liked the game for the most part is it was, realistic and all that for for the most part. And I will say that it's maybe a good positive is that it is very easy to look at a lot of anime and see that it's very like over the top, supernatural, like high schoolers behaving like they're twice their age, even though they look like
Hmm.
they can barely like pull up their pants half the time. So like
Hmm.
it's like that disconnect sort of. Whereas with this, like they are, I from what I can tell, they're acting their age. It's realistic in that sense. To your point, kind of like a drama. So that is nice to see every once in a while an anime that more takes itself a little bit seriously, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It wasn't getting until the last episode last night where it got like during the fight, it got a bit anime again,
Hmm.
and I'm like, why for 11 episodes in the middle were you like very serious?
Hmm.
Yeah, and
They just got to have this super climactic ending to like really pull people in, I guess.
surely they're pulled in by episode 13, aren't they?
Good point, I guess.
Yeah,
I'd be curious to know how. I don't know if how much like ratings per se are really a factor with this stuff anymore, especially with streaming. But I'd be curious to know like how many viewers this series got through like Crunchyroll
apparently
officially.
between I don't know through Crunchyroll, but apparently through like the TV, it was getting
Mm.
between around 250,000 each episode.
Oh, that's a good point because it did premiere on Adult Swim each week as well. That's right. But I don't know.
That's
I mean,
how, yeah, that's how I watched it. And the thing that I found strangest was every ad break they advertised Trojan condoms, and I'm like, anime fans don't have sex. What's
Ooh, just stick it to them. Mm.
yeah,
Okay, so funny enough, on Crunchyroll. So I guess really quick for anyone who doesn't know, yes, it was premiering on Adult Swim, but you could also watch it on Crunchyroll. Funny enough, every episode was free, even on Crunchyroll. But you have to wait like 4 or 5 days unless you have their premium, couple bucks a month or whatever subscription, however much it is. Funny enough, Crunchyroll actually is going to be not necessarily doing that much anymore after this particular season. But just FYI for this show, especially now that all the episodes are out, I think you can now essentially watch it all on Crunchyroll, except for the last episode, which might take another couple days. But anyways, all the commercials on Crunchyroll, I swear to God, were the general was Shaquille O'Neal, like 5 different variants of Shaquille O'Neal, like general 1-800 general now insurance commercials. I was losing my mind where I couldn't get away from him. And I would pay the ad money to get
to be
that.
fair, Shaq
Just fair.
advertises fucking anything.
Well,
Uh,
yeah, exactly. He does, and
He's
it's
like, "Oh,
getting a little.
you want Staple? You want to go to Staples?" And I'm like, "No one's been in a Staples for 15 years."
Yeah, we got pizza, Staples. I think Gold Bond, like insurance. Dude does everything. I mean, good on him, I guess, for making some money. But
He makes more money than I do. So.
yeah, he's doing something right, clearly. Um, but yeah, so yeah. Either way, I mean, I think it did decent enough, right? Like once again, by no means was like a disaster or did bad or anything like that. People seem to generally be, to like it. So I guess maybe before getting into the franchise as a whole, as far as like, because once again, we do have to be objective and also sort of separate ourselves a little bit. And as far as the anime itself goes, I would say, yeah, give it a watch, even if
Yeah,
you're a
I'd give it a
fan or not
thumbs
a
up.
fan. Yeah, exactly. Give it a thumbs up. It was fine. Good show.
Yeah,
Especially if you are new and you just want to get that quick kind of synopsis sort of feel. Yeah, it's a good anime. You'll have a good time watching it.
I feel honestly, if you've never played Shenmue, I feel like you could watch 2 or 3 episodes of this and be like, "Okay, do I find this story interesting?"
Hmm.
And then maybe go play the game because then like you get the extra stuff. It's weird because there's stuff in the anime that weren't in the games, and there's game stuff in the game that's not in the anime.
Hmm.
So I feel like to get this full story, you kind of need to do both.
Yeah, well, okay, so that kind of is a good segue then to sort of this next part of the conversation that I wanted to have. So, okay, let me know if I'm like completely off base here, but I feel like Shenmue as a franchise, so both inclusive now of the anime and the games and wherever it's going to go next, I feel like has a bit of like an identity crisis where it doesn't know what it wants to be. Because on one
Yeah,
hand, you could say that Shenmue 3 came back not. I mean, it's pretty clear it came back because a lot of fans wanted it to come back, and there wasn't this like mainstream desire that everyone was saying, "Oh my god, get this game back." It was very much a core audience that helped to bring it back. But then with the third game, and I think to some extent with this anime, it's okay. We're going to appease those fans, but also we want to bring in this big mainstream audience. And I feel like if you try to do both, you succeed at neither.
No, yeah, I agree with that. I think the anime did it better than the third game at that point. I think
Hmm.
it's a bit easier to do with a TV show because with a TV show, it's a lot more accessible to everyone.
Hmm.
Whereas
Yeah.
games, you've got there's so many barriers to jump over to introduce a core audience that it becomes a lot harder to do.
Hmm.
Um, it's a weird franchise. Like it's one of those things. Like me
You
and you,
don't say.
we love the first two games. We love the
Right. Right.
first two games. But where it goes from here, I imagine they're trying to do a fourth game.
Hmm.
There's rumors. We'll see
Right.
whether they pan out or not.
Hmm.
Last night, the guy who made the show tweeted he'd love to do another season.
Hmm.
I do think it's gonna. If they do another season, they're probably gonna overtake the game, sort of in a Game of Thrones type style. Because like Shenmue 3 took them 3 years to make.
Technically, yes. From when they
Yeah,
truly started it, yeah. Hmm.
yeah. And TV shows are normally. I know it's an anime, and they normally will take long because you got to draw it and whatnot.
Hmm.
But I don't see the pace of the games keeping up with the anime.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously Suzuki's getting up there in age. I mean, he says he wants to make more, and more power to him. I mean, I'm always happy to see what else he comes up with. But yeah, I mean, he's getting up there too. So I don't know how much more he has in him, frankly. But it's, I guess, why I think there's an issue as well to an extent is like, okay, so you have this anime now, and I guess for what you said a second ago is true, where if you watch the first episodes and you're actually intrigued, then yeah, maybe that'll get you to then go potentially play the games maybe after you watch the anime or something like that. So, which is good. And now that those HD releases are out, it's obviously a lot easier compared to before, where you had to play on the
Hmm.
Dreamcast or through emulators and stuff like that. So I guess that's good. But then I'm like, I guess I once again I just don't know for how many new people who saw this for the first time did they give a shit, frankly,
Yeah.
to go and play the game. Maybe they did, and if so, that's fantastic. But like, I'm trying to think. There's so much like history and nostalgia with these games for the people who played them that like if that's removed and you just saw this as like a drama, like even if you liked the anime, I don't know what about this anime would compel you to go back and play the games, I guess, because I feel like so much of the games is the more like weird, mundane kind of day-to-day interactions you're
Hmm.
exploring. Like to me, at least I can speak for me. That's why I like those games. The exploring an environment and feeling like you're really part of it. Whereas when I watch the anime, I'm like, okay, neat story. I don't feel like I got enough of the environment per se when I watch the anime.
Yeah. I think it's hard as well because we know the story as well.
Yeah.
I mean, there were honestly, like even the stuff they added wasn't anything that like made you look at anything in a new light. It was mainly like character development and
Yeah.
things like that. I do wonder if, say, they do a second season and it covers what would be Shenmue 3 and 4. If we're like once we get past Shenmue 3, it's a bit more like twist at the end of every episode where we're like, oh, what does this mean? I
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, and I know for years when Shenmue 3 wasn't on the cards again during the dark period
Hmm.
between 2 and 3, everyone kept saying, dude, like Suzuki, just make a manga or an anime, like release it as a fan fiction online. Like, we don't give a shit. Just like tell the story, basically.
Hmm.
And I would almost, to be frank, like I would almost prefer that at this point. So I guess if that's the case, and they do want to continue the story, given that now they have this anime, if they use this as like, okay, we had to do it just to like set the stage, and now we can then continue the story, then I see a purpose for this anime. But
Hmm.
if that doesn't happen, I don't know the other than I guess getting new people into the game, I don't really know what the purpose this anime serves. Like I said, it's fine. You're not gonna have a bad time watching it, but it's like, uh, eh.
I don't know if I've ever told you my theory of what it is. Like, animes take a long time to make, right? And
Yeah,
this got
sure.
announced like 6 months after Shenmue 3
Hmm.
came out. After how huge the Kickstarter was, I bet they thought, oh, this is going to be big.
Right, right.
And they went to them, signed all the contracts, got it all done. Shenmue 3 kind of came out with a bit of a thud. And then
Yeah,
the contracts are already signed and you've already committed.
right.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it's apparently done well still.
Sure, sure.
But I think if they had started talking about this after Shenmue 3, I think it would have been a very different purpose. So, what was the point of the anime? I think they just jumped on a train that they thought was taking
Hmm.
off.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Yeah, I think you nailed it. So I don't know. Either way, uh, as far as the future of the anime, if they continue it, that's great. If
Hmm.
not, once again, it's not a bad watch. You'll still have a good time. And as far as the future of the franchise as a whole, we'll see. Apparently, in the coming weeks, could be an announcement for another game, or maybe another random YouTube video that they talk about an interview. I have no idea. Who knows what they might do? But whatever happens, you can count on us to probably talk about it at some point.
Yeah.
So, I guess before moving on, though, any other final thoughts?
No, no. Honestly, I used to be like really like depressed at the idea we're never going to get Shenmue 3, and then when it was announced, I was so excited. After playing the game, if you told me Shenmue 4 was never going to come out, I'd be like, okay. It's one of those things where I feel like I've kind of, made peace with it, like
Hmm.
someone who knows they're dying. I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm like, I've made peace with that. If you told me if it comes out, of course I'm going to play it. But if you said it is never coming out, I'd be like, okay. Whereas if you had told me in all those years Shenmue 3 will never happen, I'd be like, yeah, it kind of sucks.
Yeah, and maybe what an interesting discussion we can have in a future episode is just like franchises that get rebooted or come back years later, and some of them can do it successfully. Many often don't, though, unfortunately. And actually, for our next episode, a sneak peek of something that I'm going to be talking about that is literally this is the latest season of Star Trek Picard, which let's say it's been a little interesting.
Set your reminders, guys.
Yeah, if you want that hot Star Trek content, come back
Yeah.
next week. So, but yeah, no, I feel you exactly. As sad as it is, like I'm also kind of at that same point where it is what it is. Like anything that has come out recently and moving forward still is not going to take away from my experiences of the first two games. Like contrary to what a lot of people say, where it like ruins a franchise or whatever. Like no, those first two games are what they are to me, and I still enjoy them. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, okay,
Yeah.
cool. Um, so the next thing then I was going to talk about, so Hellblade.
Hmm.
So last week, we had briefly mentioned the fact of like the difference between bigger open world games and more linear experiences. And after playing all the Souls games as well as Horizon and Ghostwire, I wanted to play something, but I wanted a bit of a break from those bigger world games. And so when I was looking for something that I could tackle relatively quickly, but also not have to like go crazy hunting for all these things in a bajillion different places, Hellblade kind of became recommended to me. And on top of that, it was on, I don't know if this is always the case or if I just happened to get lucky. It was on sale for like $20 for PS4. So I was like, all right,
Yeah,
I'll
I
check
think
that
I got
out.
it for like 10, $20 at one point in a sale. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I really, from a trailer, the setting looked really cool. So for anyone who doesn't know, it's very much a kind of like a Viking, old Nordic sort of setting, like long, long time ago. So it's very dark and it's rainy and gross and gritty and all that sort of stuff. And then on top of that, though, the kind of the hook of this game, it's about this woman's journey to deal with a very traumatic event. And very like they even tout on the back or in the menus or something, they actually consulted with like a multitude of neuro psychiatric kind of consultants to make sure that the psychoses and things she was experiencing, like you're experiencing in the game, are very realistic compared to how someone would actually experience it, which I thought was interesting.
Well, they
But
even tell you to wear headphones at the beginning, don't they? Because they're like, it's going to add to the experience because you're hearing voices the entire time.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of that in this game. But really, at the end of the day, it's a very like I don't know if you ever played Dead Space or not, but like
Yeah.
for anyone who has, it's kind of that like up closer up, like it's over the shoulder, but it's like a very closer up camera, or like even Resident Evil 4, kind of like that over the shoulder, but very much like very close. And then there's really, if I'm not mistaken, there's not really like a heads up display or anything. So it's very like cinematic, which I thought was really cool. I mean, do you like that type of look as well?
Yeah.
Or
I didn't like the aesthetic of the world and stuff. It's just not one I've been interested
sure.
in. Like that movie, The Northman's just come out, and everyone's like
Oh yeah.
raving about it. But I'm like, oh, it just looks dirty.
I'm
Yeah.
not normally either. I
Yeah.
agree with you. Not normally either, but I guess it was neat to play it in a game. But I hear what you're talking about, though.
Yeah. No, I liked the whole hearing whispers and things like that. I thought that was
Hmm.
it's like not something that happens in games. The only other
Uh-huh.
thing, like you said, like Dead Space is kind of similar to that, and Eternal Darkness
Hmm.
for the
Yep.
GameCube was sort of
Hmm.
similar. Where I don't think people try to mess with the player much.
Right.
I think most companies are like worried about making it a pleasurable experience and things
Hmm.
like that. Whereas like sometimes, yeah, I know I say it looks muddy, but sometimes you want to get dirty in the mud a little, you know,
Right. Yeah.
and have something that's a bit of disgusting experience.
You're really selling this.
Yeah,
I completely agree, and I think it was a unique experience, and I think they definitely put a lot of thought into it, and I guess so as far as the gameplay itself goes, a lot of people, and I think we also talked about this last time as well, where some people have called this game a walking simulator, which, to be
hmm
fair, is to some extent accurate. But you're very much, there are parts of the game where you have to do combat and some puzzle solving. The puzzle solving is
yeah.
kind of hard to.
I didn't like the puzzles.
Yeah, I'll say I liked what they were trying to go for, but the execution was frustrating, I will say.
I think it
Be-
kills the momentum. I think that's
mhm,
the issue. Is you're
mhm,
walking along and you're hearing the voices and it's well paced and you can tell they work really hard on like right this hallway's this long, we've got to record 22
right.
seconds of dialogue. Um, this cutscene's going to cut in here. But if you are doing a puzzle, because she's not the fastest moving character either,
Right.
and I found that sometimes you're in an area for 10, 15 minutes, and because everything looks just brown, it's hard to like remember where you were, where everything is. That was my biggest negative is I think you could have just done away with all of the puzzles,
Mhm,
had the game be like an hour shorter, and I think overall it would have been a more not
mhm.
fun experience because this isn't like a game that you go into for like pixel fun.
Have a great time.
But I think it would have been a better package
Mhm.
overall.
Yeah, I hear you. Because, like, the puzzles, to give a brief synopsis, you essentially have to look for symbols that are placed in specific spots in the levels, and you kind of like focus on them, and it sort of like unlocks a door. And you have to get pretty specific
hmm
for how you like focus on them, and it got to the point where like there were cases where I knew like I could see it, but I couldn't line it up correctly to like
Yeah.
unlock it, and that part was frustrating. And then the combat for the most part was okay. It was a little clunky, I'll say.
hmm
It could have been better done, or at least explained a little bit better, but once you got the hang of it, it wasn't like the worst or anything. It took some getting used to. So, but yeah, overall though, I think the game took me like 7 hours to beat or something like that. So it was, good enough. It wasn't just like a couple hours, but it was also not like super long or anything like that. Um, but I liked, like I said, the concept and the idea. And then I will say, I won't spoil it, but the final boss fight, I will say, I don't know if the way to beat the final boss. I don't know if you remember it or not.
hmm
I don't know if I've ever played another game that like you had to do a specific thing to beat this boss that I don't think I've seen in another game before, which I thought was a unique way to win. So I don't know if you know what I'm talking about or not, but
I think so. I think so. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Well, I've said
there's
to you
just
before,
yeah,
why does every game need a final boss? Like, it's
exactly.
stupid. It's stupid. Just
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes a game can end. Like, you know.
Uh-huh. Exactly. And there is fighting in the last part of the game. And once again, it's not like particularly hard, but there's like a very specific thing that you need to let happen to beat the boss, which I thought was also very well tied into the story as well. So I just thought in general, they did a good job on that. So I'll say I really enjoyed it. I think once again, yeah, things could have been better, but like if you want, a pretty cheap game, something that's
Mhm.
quick, but like a different take on a narrative, and you want interesting things to look at. Yes, it's dirty and gross, of course. So, if you don't like that environment, maybe not. But otherwise, I would definitely say give it a thumbs up. And then, well, so I guess before moving on to the next part, though, would you recommend it to people? I guess.
Yeah, I would give the game overall a thumbs up. I don't think it's a thumbs down. I don't think it's for everyone. I think there's
Hmm.
things that could have been better. I remember the year it came out, and everyone was like saying it should be Game of the Year and things like. And like it's good, but I don't think it's like that good.
Well, I think
Like,
it did actually win some Game of the Year awards from certain
yeah,
places, if I'm not
yeah,
mistaken.
I didn't see that in this game at all. It's a cool experience. That's
Right,
the
right.
thing. Rather than like Game of the Year, I think it's like a cool experience.
Hmm.
You know, it's a fun thing to try out. It's a
Yeah.
if you can get it, as you said, on sale for like $15 or something like that, I think it's a great little buy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And once again, even though I do replay games from time to time, this is probably not one I'm necessarily going to replay. And I don't know if other people feel differently, but yeah, at least for a quick experience, for sure. But I will also say more recently, so there's this, they announced the second one coming out.
Yeah.
And I think even though this first one is for PlayStation and I think Xbox and PC, I believe the second one is PC and Xbox only. I don't believe, at least as of
Well,
now, I don't.
the Microsoft now own the team.
Well, right,
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah, yeah.
exactly. So maybe at some point, maybe it's like a timed exclusive sort of thing, because all those lines are getting blurred lately, anyways, with all these
Yeah.
freaking acquisitions. So maybe at some point it'll come over. But for now, at least, it's not going to be on PlayStation. But I will say, I don't know if you've seen the trailer for the second one. So a couple things stick out. So one, the graphics of this look insane to me.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if I've seen a better. Like I had
I
to.
thought it was. I thought it's real. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was real. I was
And
like, this
we're gonna
okay.
watch this video in 10 years and go, "That's stupid."
It looks like shit. Yeah, it's pixelated and like just garbage. But I had to watch it multiple times. I'm like, there's no way this is a game. And so I know
Yeah.
you could say that about a lot of games, and it's like, okay, come on. But like, if you haven't, for anyone watching, if you haven't watched the trailer, so there's two. There's like a trailer, and then there's like a gameplay, like couple
Yeah.
minute like demo, and both of them look fucking ridiculous to me. So
Yeah, I just looked once they announced it, and after playing the first one, I was like, I don't know if this is a game that needs a sequel. That was my
that's what.
main thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering too. Of like, is it just going to be the same? I mean, to some extent, you could say she got over the issue of the story of the first one, the thing that was causing her the issue. So I don't know if they're just gonna like find another issue for her to get over, or like like continue it.
Yeah, no, that's my main thing. Is I just like not everything needs a sequel. Not
Yeah,
everything needs to be a franchise. Some things can just be a single product, and that's fine.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And then just a random fun little thing on the side, if for anyone who might want to look into this. So the thing that also not caught my eye, I should say caught my ear with with the trailer for the second one. So the music that they're playing, like when you listen to it, it's this kind of like, this Viking like drum, like rhythmic, like really like brutal kind of sounding beat. So the band who does the music for this trailer for the second one is actually a band, funny enough, that my wife and I have listened to before, that makes some like really really good music called Heilung,
Mm.
Heilung, and they did the. I don't know if they're doing the music for the entire game or if they maybe just thought it would be good for this particular trailer, but it was just funny. Like the second we started hearing it, we're like, wait a minute, we've heard this song before, and it was from a band we've actually listen to. And I would highly recommend watching some of their videos online. It's the most like crazy presentation of like music videos and music. They look like the characters honestly from the game. It's ridiculous. So
I thought you were going to go very different with that. You know how you're like, oh, you know, they brought in an expert on psychosis for the first game. I thought you were like going to say like they went back and got a like Viking band from the 1500 years ago.
They time traveled just for this game. Phil Spencer made it happen.
Microsoft got the kind of money.
Yeah, clearly. So just a fun fact, especially if you want to, look into that music more or just that band. I thought it was kind of neat. So, but yeah. So overall, neat experience. I am going to play the second one on PC since I don't have the new Xbox, but I don't even know. I think they said next year it comes out or something like that. So should be interesting. But yeah, so I'll turn it back over to you for the last one.
So I played the Stanley Parable Ultimate Deluxe Edition. I believe it's the full title. I've never played the Stanley Parable before. Have you?
Nope.
Nope. So before I talk about it, what do you know about the Stanley Parable?
So to me, it kind of looks like a less action-focused Portal almost. Is maybe...
No.
Okay, then so, I clearly have nothing.
Here's the issue with the Stanley Parable is to explain what it is, you give away its main gimmick. And the main thing about it that makes it unique.
Okay.
Right. So you are a guy named Stanley and you work in an office, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you go into work one day, no one else is there, and no work comes to you through your computer. So you explore the office.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing you hear is the narrator talking. Like, Stanley went into work that day and there was no one in, so he was very curious. Right.
Okay.
And you walk through the office is deserted, and then you come to a door, two doors, one on the left, one on the right. And the narrator says, Stanley went through the door on the left. Now, it's up to you what door you go through, but depending on what door you go through, the game starts to change. Right? Okay. You go through the one on the left, and then the narrator goes, and then Stanley went up the stairs, and then Stanley went, and then, whereas if you go through the one on the right, the narrator goes, that's not the door you went through, Stanley. Turn back, and he starts having a go at you. And then, that is the main thing that's fun, is it's upsetting the narrator. You can just keep doing stuff. There was a point where I went in the break room of the office, and I'm just exploring, and he's going, Are you happy, Stanley? You came in the break room. You didn't have to? What did you achieve? Nothing. But then, because I got, a puppy or whatever at the moment, and he started, causing trouble on the floor, I put the controller down. But, every minute, the narrator just got angrier and angrier that I was still in the break room, and it was different lines of dialogue. Right? Okay. He's just yelling. And then I went in a broom closet, and he's like, there's nothing in here, Stanley. Just get out of the broom closet. But then later in the game, I went past the broom closet again, and he had boarded it up so I couldn't go back in.
Damn, okay.
Yeah. So it's, and then I was said to my wife, just experience this, right? Because she was out and I had her do it, and she's not very good at controlling a camera or anything. And there's a keypad where it's there's a special code that Stanley didn't know. It was 2845. Yeah.
Okay.
So he's giving it to you, and my wife's very slowly going up to the 2. Down to the 8, and the narrator got to the point where he just went 2, 8, 4, 5.
Damn, that's giving you a lot of shit.
Yeah. But that's the thing, is hilarious. It's very meta. If you're into games whatsoever, it sort of makes fun of what games are and how they treat people who play them, and how they have to cater to them. It's very meta. It's also sort of a weird commentary on corporate America.
That's what it looks like. I mean, it looks just like an office, so I'm sure there's some humor about that.
Yeah. There's that. There's just some weird sort of weird humor, sort of feels like being John Malkovich at times.
Oh, perfect. Good.
Yeah. And it's really good. Here's the issue though, is I paid $25 for it,
Mm-hmm.
and after an hour, I got it.
What do you in the sense of like you had enough of it, or what do you
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. Like I got the point. Like after an hour, I was done with the game. Like because some endings take
Oh,
2 to 3 minutes to get to. There's like loads of
got
different
it.
endings, right?
Oh, okay, got it,
Once
got
you
it.
get to the ending, it kicks you back to the beginning of the game again,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then you walk through again, you get another ending, and then like because at the beginning of the game it says, "Have you played it before?" Like the original, and if you say yes, it gives you the newer content sooner.
Mm-hmm.
But even with the newer content and stuff, I was just sort of like, yeah, I got the joke.
Mm-hmm.
I get it, it's funny, but it's not something that I'm going to sit there and play for 7-8 hours. And then I kind of become annoyed that I'd pay $25 for a 10-year-old game
Mm-hmm.
that most people have been able to get on Steam for like $3.
Yeah, because I'm curious what, and maybe this is hard to say since you didn't play the original. I don't know what new content is it? Is it like more endings? Is it?
It is kind of more endings, but also it's more just making fun of games that do special editions.
Mm,
Like because
okay,
you literally go in an elevator and the narrator's like, "Oh, look, this is what you paid for in the extra content, elevators." Like things like that, and I'm like,
okay,
yeah, like it's funny and stuff. But
sure.
then I'm also like, I would have laughed a lot more if I'd paid $10 for it.
That's the real joke. Is it got you to
Yeah,
pay $25?
I don't think I would have minded as much if everyone
Sure.
if the game had just come out that day for everyone. But it's that
Hmm.
fact of people. I'm not normally one who's like, oh, this game
Sure.
should be cheaper and stuff. But I've
Yeah.
seen it in Steam sales for like $2-3 before.
Well, I think I actually saw because I was on Steam the other day for something else. I think, and I don't know if this is limited time or what, but I think it said something like if you have the original on Steam, you can get this version for like a cheaper amount. And
Yeah,
granted, I don't think that works for consoles necessarily because I don't know if it was released on consoles, but
yeah,
yeah. I mean, it definitely seems like a game I would love for sure.
yeah,
I think I do intend to play it at some point, but I probably this is a game I'll probably wait for it to go out on sale a little bit to
yeah.
at
I
some
think
point.
thumbs up for sure.
Hmm.
Really, like I really enjoy it. It's something that I think everyone who's sort of into games should experience.
Uh-huh.
But I don't think you should spend that kind of money on it, and I don't think a certain amount of hours equals um, how much you should pay for it,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
But for a game it's making fun of stuff.
Mhm.
It's not like a game where you're going to get invested for hours. This is the sort of thing that like you'll show a friend for a quick laugh.
Right.
It's not like a deep. Like I looked at, they released that Chrono Cross
Yeah.
HD version, and that's like $15.
Mhm.
And I just know I'm going to get more investment and enjoy that more long term.
Right.
I'm going to think about that more outside of
Mhm.
playing it.
So I guess out of curiosity, and once again, maybe this will spoil it. Obviously, it sounds like there's a lot of narrative and kind of exploration. But in terms of like gameplay, is that it, or is it
Oh,
like
it's
is
just
there
first person.
puzzle?
It's you just press buttons. Like
Right, but is it like okay? So I'm assuming there's not like combat of any
no,
kind, or like is there even like puzzle solving? I
not
mean, I'm sure it
really.
is, but
Not
okay.
really. You can do some off the wall things to get a different ending, but for the most
Right.
part, it is stuff like do you go through the left or the right door?
Okay. Okay.
Do you want to
Right.
press the on or off button?
Mhm.
Like it's not a puzzle game. No.
Right, right. Okay. And once again, that's gameplay wise, I'm obviously cool with that too. But yeah, just to get a feel, because I don't know why for some reason I thought it was like a light version of Portal. Maybe it's because of that like corporate environment looking where you kind of
It's
almost start
made
off.
it's made in that Half Life engine.
Maybe
I
that's
think
why, just the aesthetic.
it started as like a Half Life mod, apparently.
Okay,
Yeah,
that makes sense then. That makes
yeah.
sense. Okay, so I mean, do you think then? I imagine this is one of those games you probably think like, okay, it's a one and done type of thing, or do you think there's any room for this to go anywhere else in a follow up or something?
Well, they make fun of that in the
Ah,
extra
okay.
content. He's like, I'm proud to announce the Stanley Parable 2. And it's like, what it makes fun of like. So I don't think we get another Stanley Parable.
Sure.
There's room for games similar to this, not exactly an office environment, which is
Yeah.
meta, but like games that don't take themselves too seriously.
Yeah,
We don't have
for
enough of
sure.
that.
Exactly. Yeah, I would love games that are just fun games.
Yeah.
So, yeah, exactly. It sounds like this is one of those things. And the thing is and this is why Steam is like an infinite library of craziness, because there's so much stuff on Steam that are these like weird one-off niche experiences, and some of them rise to the top like Stanley Parable, and then there's all sorts of other ones that just kind of stay in the depths of Steam,
You
and
don't want to play
which
like a crab dating simulator?
look, I've played enough of those in my life. All right, I don't need another one. But there's all kinds of goofy shit on there, which is fine. I love seeing that experimentation in weird stuff like that. So as long as this, I guess, facilitates that of like pushing the boundaries in a sense of like just trying new things.
Yeah.
Yeah, there doesn't have to be another one or anything like that. But yeah, I'll definitely play this at some point for sure.
I can't stress this enough, guys. Like, wait until it's like $10. It will be at some point, even if it's a year from now. It's a cool experience. It's not something that you've got to be in the conversation of having with people right here, right now. Because as I said as well, the main niche of it is you get it within 5 seconds as well.
Yeah.
That's the main thing it does different.
Yeah. Exactly. So definitely, and especially if you get it on computer again, like through Steam, they're definitely going to have sales later in the year for their normal yearly annual stuff. So yeah, you'll definitely be able to get it cheap probably this year later on. So.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that'll wrap it up for today. So I will say, as always, make sure to follow us here on YouTube at Tojo Dojo, on Twitter, Tojo Dojo. On occasion, believe it or not, I do stream. It hasn't been lately, unfortunately, but hopefully in the near future, I'll do a little bit more of a regular schedule, but try and follow us on there. And then, yeah, we'll be back next week for whatever we're watching and playing next to discuss then.
All right.
So thanks for joining as always.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye.